Good morning. I am Kevin Price. Delighted to be with you. Looking forward to talking to you about you and your business. And as usual, we have a lot to cover on today's program. I'm going to get straight to it. We're going to have a very timely topic, one that is near and dear to my heart, helping people in terms of taking their business to the next level and taking their personal financial lives to the next level as well. Chris Atwood, he is the author of the book, Your Hidden Riches, and calling us from Germany today. How are you, Chris?
I'm great, Kevin. Good to be here.
Glad to have you on. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your book.
Well, thank you, Kevin. About 10 years ago, my business partner, ex-wife, best friend, and now the godmother of my three children, Janet Bray Atwood, and I wrote a book called The Passion Test. And the Passion Test is a simple, powerful way for people to get clear about what matters most to them in their lives. It's a program that we've implemented in businesses around the world as well. And it's been featured over the last decade in Success Magazine, O Magazine, and TV and radio interviews like this one all over the world. And what we've been told over and over again when people get clear on their passions is, well, how do I make my passions real? And there are lots of different answers to that question, of course, and usually they go to the how-tos. How do I build my business? How do I save money? How do I do this, that, or the other thing? And yet Janet and I said, well, what is it that's made a difference for us? And what we realized is that for a long, long time, probably more years than I should mention here, what's really been the basis of our success and the basis of our ability to maintain balance, to be able to stay calm even under intense pressure, to be able to perform at our best, has been something we call rituals. And Kevin, when we talk about rituals, we're not talking about religious practices, although there are beautiful rituals in many religious traditions. We're not talking about superstition. We're not talking about habits. We all have good and bad habits that are developed unconsciously in our lives. But rituals, on the other hand, are conscious, intentional practices. We choose to make habitual because they make our lives better. And what was so interesting, Kevin, is we wrote this book. We discovered as we talked to successful people in business, in the sports world, in the music and entertainment world, that all successful people have rituals. They just don't talk about them. So we call rituals the unspoken secret of the world's most successful people.
Very interesting, very interesting. And rituals, really, to make it simple, is routines is another word for rituals. It's doing something on a regular basis in order to meet your objective.
Yeah, it's something that you do consciously and intentionally, and you make it a habit, you make it repetitive, because it makes your life better in one way or another. And, business people know that there are a lot of essential rituals that you have to have. If you don't make a ritual of looking at your financial statements monthly, you may get a rude surprise, right? But there are some elements that you can do, particularly in business, I've discovered, that can take routines and make them more valuable. Because really, Kevin, rituals are a way of managing your time, managing your energy, and managing your thinking. And a lot of times in business, we tend to get overwhelmed at times when we think, oh my God, I've got so many bills to pay, and how am I going to meet payroll, and how am I going to come up with the money that I need for this big deposit, or how am I going to build this building, and all of these sorts of things. And what we can do with rituals is choose to where we put our attention. And so, for example, a weekly ritual that I do for our business is I'll sit down and I'll do a weekly projection of revenue. Now, I don't do a weekly projection of expenses. I consciously make a point of what's my projected revenue this week, and where is it coming from? And then once a month, I add in expenses to the whole thing so that it becomes revenue and expenses, which of course is my income statement, so that I can look at where do I need to address the expense side of the equation. But on a week-to-week basis, what I found more useful is to make a ritual of focusing on revenues. How am I going to increase sales? How am I going to increase the income that's coming into the business? And then expenses, dealing with them on a monthly basis, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. What would you say is the thing that is preventing people from making a shift to really figure out what stands between them and the money that you're saying they can acquire?
Well, I think all of us, Kevin, know and understand that we have a huge potential inside of us. That's what we call your hidden riches. one of the premises of our book is that every one of us is born with a unique design for our life. And that, in fact, our role and our purpose here in this world is to discover what that life design is and get aligned with it. When we're aligned with that design for our life, then things flow. And when we're not aligned, then it's a struggle. You know, we've heard this idea of life is like a river. But most of us, too many people, both business and people and non-business people, find that they're like in the shallows on the edge of the river, banging up against the rocks and getting caught in all the brambles and the branches. And life becomes difficult and a struggle, and particularly entrepreneurs. You know, it's like, how am I going to get by from week to week or month to month? And so when the value of rituals is that they're a way to take the boat of your life and move it more into the center of the river so that you're aligned with that design for your life, where you're aligned with your passions, aligned with the things that really matter to you, that are meaningful to you. And then life becomes then you're in the flow. And life is fun and it's enjoyable and it becomes an adventure. You're looking forward to what's coming around the next bend instead of dreading it.
Yeah. Very good. Well, I appreciate you spending time. You have events as well, correct?
We have an event coming up in Chicago, October 24th to 26th, and that will focus on this whole aspect of rituals. So we have one of the top investment coaches in the country, Phil Town, author of the #1 New York Times bestselling book, Rule Number One, who'll be speaking there, as well as Mary Morrissey, Marshall Weeder, a bunch of others. And that's Chicago, October 24th to 26th, the hiddenrichesexperience.com, hiddenrichesexperience.com. And then we do train facilitators of the Passion Test, and we teach people how to deliver the Passion Test in a business context. We have 1,400 facilitators in about 50 countries. And that's something people can learn about at our website, thepassiontest.com.
Chris, thanks so much for your time. Chris Atwood has been our guest, and you can learn more about him at thepassiontest.com. When we come back, much more for you. I do want to remind you, best content here, it shows up over there at usdailyreview.com. Stay tuned for more right after this.